everybody. Welcome to another edition of Good to Know Shreveport-Bossier. This is a podcast showcasing the good things that are happening in our community. My name is Jeff Blindfort. This is my co-host, Paul Reeser. He's a former president of the Reeser Group and Sonic Management Company. He's a member of the Committee of 100, a board member there, and each week we'll be focusing on economic development, community growth, and other topics about initiatives having positive impacts on our community. We'll have new episodes every other Wednesday, and you can find Good to Know wherever you listen to podcasts. So, Paul, we have a special guest today. I will let you do the honors.
Well, thank you, Jeff.
It's my pleasure.
Letting me do the honors. And we're going to get you a job at Chick-fil-A later on.
Wow, you're crossing the street, huh?
My pleasure. No, my favorite, actually. So, Wendell Riley, you are currently the executive director of Robinson Film Center, one of my favorite places to hang out.
Thank you.
Entertainment and great food. And you can take your drink into the movie.
You can, yeah.
Really?
But that's nothing to do with your introduction. The cool thing is you're from Trinidad and Tobago. He's an Emmy-nominated producer with an incredible film background in animation, documentaries, but also a tremendous business acumen. You have your MBA from Radford University in Virginia, and he was most recently the director of media at for external relations at LSUS. Great background, incredible, and probably, perhaps the most impressively, you're currently a guest on Good to Know Shreveport-Bossier. So you're really climbing the ladder.
I know.
Man.
I mean, I don't know how I'm going to follow that intro. It's all downhill from here.
You and I worked occasionally together when you were at LSUS,
yes,
right?
Sir, that is correct.
Of course, Jeff has a connection, as he always does.
Every week, man. Even when I don't know who the guests are, we have a connection. It's amazing.
That's right.
Isn't it?
Well, I had to get all my talking out of the way because once you talk, your voice is so cool. That's just going to be all we want to listen to.
Thank you.
So, but tell us a little bit, actually, just about the Robinson Film Center and why you decided to go there after this time, and we want to talk about your big plans for the film center.
Well, as you so eloquently stated in that bio, I do have a film and animation background, and most of the work that I've done has been here in Shreveport-Bossier. Mm-hmm. So the film community here is very near and dear to my heart. It's something that I am very passionate about. And coming from education, that's something that I've always been extremely passionate about as well. So when RFC approached me about taking on the executive director role, it just
Robinson Film Center.
Yes,
those acronyms.
Not Rugby Football Club.
Yeah,
no, I have to straighten these things out for
Thank you.
all the time.
Yes, so Robinson Film Center, we lovingly call it RFC. When they approached me about taking the executive director role, it seemed like an amazing opportunity to blend my two passions, which obviously are the humanities and education.
Right.
RFC is a nonprofit, and our mission is very simple. We serve to educate, engage, and entertain this region through the medium of film.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's really neat what you said early on. You came here for a film, and we're trying to increase the reputation of Shreveport, Louisiana as a film destination. Talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, surprisingly, well, not surprisingly, if you start looking a little deeper, production companies actually love filming in Shreveport. There are a number of things that we have that make us unique. Shreveport, because of its diverse set of environments and locales, we can double for pretty much any environment in the U.S. other than mountain peaks. Yeah. Exactly. If you want to film something in a swamp, we're about 20 minutes away from that. Mm-hmm. If you want to film something in a more rural area like a barn or on a farm, we have that. Mm-hmm. Our downtown architecture has doubled for cities such as Washington, D.C., New York, right. You name it. Mm-hmm. And so our town is essentially a very robust backlot. Right. So it makes it really simple for production companies. When they have to do multiple setups in different types of locations, they can come shoot a number of things and do all of it here. If you film in New Orleans, New Orleans is a great city, and the film industry is definitely thriving there. But New Orleans looks like New Orleans, right? Yeah. And Atlanta sort of has that big city feel, but they don't have some of the other things that we have here. So that's one of the main draws for production companies when they want to film in Shreveport and the Bossier region as well. The other thing that we don't have here is traffic.
This is true.
So it makes it really...
Comparatively. Have you ever been on Airline Drive at noon trying to get into Canes?
Yeah. I mean, I used to live in the Northeast, and I've been so spoiled. When I hit like Airline or Uri at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm like, I have to wait 2 minutes at the light. This is ridiculous.
I'm from Atlanta, and I'm driving down Airline going, what, am I back in Atlanta?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So let me ask you this. How active... there was a big upheaval a few years ago with the film industry here, and things had been very active here. There was a big studio here.
Yeah.
That is no longer a studio, or at least most of it isn't.
Right.
So how active is the film industry, the big-time film industry in Shreveport right now?
So if you're talking about studio productions that are brought to the community, we are averaging about 1 or 2 happening at a time. There are productions actually happening, and you mentioned the studio that we had downtown, which was the old Millennium Studios, that has actually been taken over, and it's being run by, with a lot of support from the city of Shreveport. It's being run by Wade Marshall, who is someone who is obviously, he has an understanding of how the film industry works, but he also understands how the film industry works here. And if you talk to Wade, he's very excited because he has a whiteboard in his office with a list of the productions that are either happening or coming to Shreveport-Bossier. And it's a significant list. The challenge that we have is that we don't have a very deep bench, right? So people often think of the film industry from the perspective of writers and directors and actors and actresses. But really, it's sort of a pyramid model, and you all understand this being in production, is that there's a mountain of individuals who support the vision of what's considered above the line talent, right? So caterers, electricians, grip, best, all of those folks, right? People who actually build sets and make these things happen. So what typically...
Best boy.
The best boy,
that's head electrician, right?
The challenge that we have is that when a studio brings a production to Shreveport, our best and brightest get pulled into that, and they do a fantastic job. They work on it. But if there's a second production that's scouting us, we have a hard time staffing that up. Which is why the focus for the film industry now, and that includes the city of Shreveport, is really looking at sustainable infrastructure, making sure that we have enough below the line talent here in this town to facilitate multiple productions.
Interesting. So some of your work, I'm just asking, does some of your work at the Robinson Film Center kind of help do support there?
Absolutely, and that's one of the big visions that we have going forward for Robinson, is making sure that we assist in the workforce development part of education in this region. So we have sort of a 3-pronged approach to education at RFC.
And actually, I kind of jumped right into the film industry aspect of it instead of talking about the RFC, because I'm very familiar with it. So we're going to come back to that.
Let's finish this up.
Okay. So we have a 3-pronged approach. One is just film literacy in general, right? Getting people to understand sort of life outside of the Cineplex, right? And Cineplexes are great. I love the Cineplex. You'll see me there usually on a weekend. But film is such a diverse medium, and it has a lot of different facets and a lot of different, quite frankly, a lot of different purposes. There are films that serve to educate. There are films that just serve to entertain. There are films that serve to do both. So film literacy is one part of it. We do a lot of classes through our education division related to that. Another part of it is K through 12 education programs. So we go to schools But we also bring people to RFC. So we have Teen Film Council, where it's essentially a semester-long program where we take students, usually teenagers, and basically walk them through all of the phases of production of a film, and bring in industry experts.
Wow.
To
That's neat.
Yeah.
Did you say that was during the school year, or is that a summer program?
During the school year. We also
Really?
have summer camps where we do the same thing. And then we also go out to the schools and do classes if sometimes we get a request. We have, for example, we have in the month of October, over 4 days, we have 150 students. I believe they're elementary, middle, and some high school. We have 150 of them coming to us over 4 days in October.
That's impressive.
And that is to essentially teach them about innovation in film, because the group that is bringing them in, their theme for this academic year is innovation.
Okay.
So we can tailor our messaging to suit the educational needs of the groups that are being represented.
And where are these kids coming from, the 150?
So they're through the AIM program. It's for gifted students in Bossier. And so they're from schools all over. And they're just coming to RFC, and we'll give them popcorn and teach them about movies, and hopefully they'll have some fun in the process.
Well, so the Robinson Film Center is about a whole lot more than just an art house where you can come and see movies you wouldn't see at the cinema.
100%. And then the third part of it is the one that ties directly back to what we were talking about with the local film industry. We are looking strongly at workforce development partnerships, right? And a big part of that is, again, connecting the people that we teach and instruct with practicing filmmakers. One of the amazing things that we have in Shreveport-Bossier, other than the lack of traffic and great sets and all that, is we have a homegrown base of talent. People that have come up through Louisiana Film Prize, and really cut their teeth in independent cinema. But these are folks who now go out to other cities to do work. They go to the Northeast, they go to Atlanta, they go down to New Orleans, but their home base is Shreveport. And they are as invested as we are in developing the workforce here, because that means that they don't have to leave Shreveport to go find work. They can stay in town. If there are multiple productions and they're not on one, they can jump from one to the other one. Yeah.
So I see how, with what you're describing, fits into those two passions you have, education and film, right?
You could probably tell that I get really worked up about this, because it's just an exciting time for all of us.
Well, that's cool stuff. So now tell us about the Robinson Film Center itself. I think most people are familiar with it just as what I said. This is a neat place to go see a film, an offbeat kind of a film or something.
Well, most people aren't as well versed and as you are, Jeff.
Yes, I think I take that with great
as
humility.
active in the arts. But if you're driving down Texas Avenue, you see this cool old building. That's a movie theater. So what's inside there for someone who hasn't been?
So for someone who's never walked in, we have 2 theaters where we show films every day except for Monday when we're closed. And these are, we typically show independent films, international films, sort of the counterweight to the Cineplex fare, right? In addition to that, we have a bistro, a very popular downtown bistro. So people come for lunch and dinner. There's a bar there, and as you said, you can take your cocktails down.
That's where he hangs out.
Right.
Yeah.
You can take your food and your cocktails down into the theater and watch a film. We also have a multi-purpose space, and we host a number of community events there. Partnerships, KTBS has done a number of events with us, but we host everything from weddings to,
Cool. What's a wedding look like there at the Robinson?
Well,
That's neat.
it's a cool space to, you come in and you walk past the theaters and all the posters and stuff like that, and the multi-purpose space, as the name implies, we can sort of retrofit it to meet the needs of whatever group is coming in. but it is still happening in what we hope
It's
is
a
a really
cool
cool
space. We've had, when I had my businesses, back when I was flipping the hamburgers, we had one of our conventions in there. And up on the second floor, there's a nice big venue, open space. They bring great food because the food at the Abbey Singer is fantastic. And then we would go down into the one of the large theaters, and we would show our training films, and you can speak in the front. Jeff, you need to get out more. This is a great place.
Well, thanks for inviting me.
But people don't know that there's a venue in there for training, for business meetings. But I didn't know you could do weddings in there. That's awesome.
Yeah, we've had wedding receptions in there, birthday parties, you name it.
So do you mix like some kind of movies or something? Maybe the films from the wedding itself when they have wedding parties in there?
And that's the other cool thing that we can offer is we can theme it to match, right? And there are some details that we have to iron out in terms of making sure that we can license the film and stuff like that. But for the most part, we have the ability to show movies and sort of incorporate that into your event.
You can't just invite all your friends over to watch Star Wars this weekend. I know that's what you
more
were
of a
thinking,
Star
Jeff.
Trek guy. So
I mean, you can rent. We can rent our theaters out as well. So yeah.
But you said there's unique license. I don't want to get too deep in the weeds, but you said there was unique licensing issues on the different films.
Yeah, so it just depends on the studio. So as a movie theater, we have to go through a booking agency to make sure that we can get the film, and they negotiate with the studios on our behalf. So unfortunately, we don't get a lot of Disney films, and also because Disney has the Fox library rolled up under them now, it's sometimes challenging to get those. So we won't be having that Star Wars marathon.
Well, you mentioned Disney, so I'm reading here you worked on projects for Disney.
Yeah.
Gatorade, Chipotle, Radio Flyer, Unilever. That's pretty impressive stuff. Tell us about some of those projects.
Yeah, so when I was at Moonbot Studios, we worked in a space called branded entertainment. So we did long form, essentially commercials, animated content. Chipotle was one of the big ones that we did, and that was an Emmy Award-winning project. We won Con Leon's, Clio Awards, all kinds of stuff.
Nice. Which is an advertising award, right? Like an Oscar for commercials.
Definitely, yeah. Well, usually when I tell people that, they just kind of shake their head. Like,
I do that all the time anyway.
Yeah. But what we did was we found creative ways to promote brands that didn't just focus on the product, right? We did a lot to work on sort of brand mythology and sort of the vibe that they wanted to go for. Chipotle definitely was one where they were sort of positioning themselves as the counterweight to just typical fast food fare. And it's a very successful segment of the marketing industry. A lot of brands do it now. The one that we did for Gatorade, we did a 7-minute animated short about the life of Usain Bolt, his early life.
Well, tell me about that, because that's one of the greatest Olympians of all time.
I know, and as a Trinidadian, it was hard for me to work on that project because he's from Jamaica and we have that rivalry.
He's still the fastest man on earth. He's got to be like 50, and he's still the fastest man on earth.
Can I run your car? I've seen your car.
He's faster than the three of us. I can
put
tell
together.
You that. Yeah.
I could beat him. Give me a
telling yourself that.
Give me a 99-yard head start on a 100-yard dash.
There you go.
Yeah. But so we were able to work with his camp. You have to go through his funeral and stuff like that. But we chronicled his early life and one of the pivotal moments in his life where he was sort of bogged down by the pressure of success, and he had this very impactful interaction with his mom before a race that sort of helped him burst through that wall that he had hit, because he was at that point of trying to decide whether or not he was going to continue to run.
Oh, wow.
Luckily for all of us, his mom gave him a pep talk, and the rest is history.
And what a cool title, by the way. The Boy Who Learned to Fly. That is awesome.
Yeah. So we used
was that the one that you were nominated? You got the Emmy nomination
That is
for?
correct. Yeah, I was nominated as a producer in 2018 for that piece.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you. We were actually nominated in 2 categories that year, so our other project won. But it was fun because we were up against like Guillermo del Toro and a bunch of other really talented folks. So
it's an amazing level of talent that we have in Shreveport. So,
right
so
here,
thankful to have you.
right
man.
down the road on Kings Highway.
all the things you're talking about, Moonbot Studios and the Robinson and the Millennium Studio, all that stuff. That's
Right
pretty
here
important.
in this
You
town.
would never imagine that's all right here.
Well, that's part
Unless
of
you go to Good to Know. And you find out
exactly.
Yeah, which is another sort of semi-film project.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the challenges that we have in this town is that, and you all know this, I mean, that's probably part of the reason why we're doing this, is because sometimes we have a shorter memory than we should about the good things that happen in this community. I am always surprised at how surprised other people are when I say, yeah, I worked at Moonbot Studios. We won an Oscar, we won Emmys, we won, or to talk about RFC, and people are like, wait, that's here in town? The only art house cinema in this region is right downtown on Texas Street. So part of our mission at RFC too is to create a repository of the history of film in this town, because if you can show a legacy, and there's definitely a legacy of success here, but if you can show that to the community, it makes workforce development that much easier, because you're not talking about a kid training up to go work in Hollywood or in New York. You're training them up to go work on Texas Street.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
What kind of response, or how do the kids respond to these programs at the RFC?
Well, everyone loves film. That's the advantage of the industry that we're in. But they are always super receptive, and there is that moment that when they realize that these are people that live among them, right? Like, we're no different than they are. We just happen to, we're fortunate enough to do what we love every single day. And again, that's why, to me, representation is important. And representation goes beyond race and gender and sexual orientation. Representation also means this is someone from my town. This is someone who lives in my community. Yeah. I can do this as well, right? This isn't somebody who's a bigwig somewhere else making something, and I'll never get to meet them. These are people that I see every day, at coffee shops and stuff like that.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
So like when you're going through these training courses, or the kids are in there, can you observe these students, and you see like a light go off in their head? Like, that's something I really want to pursue.
Absolutely. There's always, so you sort of run the gamut. Like a lot of kids, they enjoy it for what it is on the surface level, the entertainment value of it. But there's always one or two, and they're wearing like a Spider-Man t-shirt. You can always, pick them out, right?
It's Green Lantern for me. But
Yeah. And they come up after and they start asking questions, and you realize that what's gratifying about that is that you see the value of access, right, to these kids, because they're able to ask questions about something that they may not even know that's something that they want to pursue for the rest of their lives. But there's that light bulb moment where they go, oh wow, you get to do this. Tell me what your day is like. Tell me, is this a real thing? You get to do this all the time? Do you legitimately get to dress up in jeans and whatever t-shirt you want to wear and go to work?
Sweet hat. If you're listening to this, you need to go to our Facebook page and watch this video. Good to know. Wendell's hat we're all sitting here, oh wow.
Are they kind of amazed that they can do that here and not have to go to LA or somewhere?
Yes, yeah, and that's a big deal, and I think that's why us coalescing this legacy of film to show that we've produced hundreds of feature films here in this town, and that's not an exaggeration.
Yeah.
There's documentary filmmaking happening here in this town. We had a full-blown animation studio here. We made games, we made apps. You name it, we've done it here in Shreveport, Louisiana.
Well, the film prize you talk about, it's kind of the center. You talk about working with the Louisiana Film Prize. It's the highest cash prize film festival in the world.
Yeah, we found that out.
It's kind of centered right there around the Robinson, so that's exciting. It brings people in. What are some other things you think that the film, the Robinson brings people to here to bring a financial impact to our area?
Well, so one of the things that we are doing is trying to develop other festivals outside of a film prize. Okay. And based on the way you described it, I know you all have sort of witnessed the energy of Gregory Kallenberg.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so I worked with Gregory for, before I went to LSUS actually. Okay. I worked for Film Prize, and I worked with him on some documentary work. So we want to expand beyond that. So we have, we're trying to do a Latino film festival in November. And these are Spanish language films that will have English subtitles.
Oh, wow.
The core audience for that is not just film lovers. It's for the Hispanic community, Latino community in this region. There are some estimates that demographic slice is about 35,000 people, right? That's a generally underrepresented population.
Definitely.
Right? So we want to bring them in. Hopefully we can grow that and then start bringing other filmmakers to the festival. There's a Bollywood festival that we're trying to put on because we have a lot of folks from the Indian community who live and work here, and even all the way down to Alexandria. So Jaya Maksharma, who's a local filmmaker and doctor, she filmmaker and doctor, by the way.
How about doctor and filmmaker?
Well, if you ask Jaya, she's a filmmaker.
Exactly. Yeah. But her parents live all the way down in Alexandria, and they are just chomping at the bit to come up here and just watch like a bunch of Bollywood films. So what we're trying to do is expand our footprint and make Shreveport sort of more of a destination for people to come in and do a day trip and hang out, watch some films. But that creates economic impact for us.
Absolutely.
We want to have people spending money downtown. There's some other bigger programs that we're doing, trying to create through our grant initiatives and leveraging our education programs. Bring some significant dollars to RFC that we can use to develop more robust programs. But that's money that we're going to spend here in this community.
Right.
Well, I just watched on Amazon Prime a documentary. It was about a guy named Sergio Ramos. He's a world famous, you probably know him, world famous soccer player. And the only reason I watched it is because it was Sergio Ramos.
Right, yeah.
But it was all in Spanish, and it was English subtitles, and I went, I can't watch this. It was like, but I got into it. I loved it.
Yeah,
it was fantastic.
Yeah.
And then it went over so well on Amazon Prime, they made a second season of it. So I think there's a definite audience for that.
Absolutely. And, because of how interwoven we are becoming globally in terms of our access to all types of entertainment, to information, it's important for us in the community to reflect that, right?
Yeah.
When I first started at Moonbot, this was, a decade ago in 2012, part of my job was to recruit people to come live and work in Shreveport, Louisiana.
Right.
So I was, in this small startup studio, and we were basically recruiting against Disney Animation, DreamWorks, but also recruiting against cities such as LA, New York, Montreal, you name it, right? So you have to make sure that there's enough stuff here. It doesn't matter what industry. If we in Shreveport-Bossier are trying to attract people to come live, work, and play here, we have to make sure that what we have to offer is relevant to them.
Right.
We have an amazing symphony. We have RFC. We have Film Prize. We have so many great things in this community. But there's a bit of PR that we have to do.
Sure.
Right.
We have to put the word out, right?
LA, Shreveport.
Yeah.
Right?
And literally, but we were successful in doing that.
Okay.
Like we we brought world-class talent to this town.
And you, like say, you were successful. I mean, it's an Oscar-winning studio.
Exactly.
And did they come? They probably just like they wanted to hang out with you. But
I was an old guy to them.
They heard about you in this podcast, so that's what. Yeah,
that's what
let's
it
face
is.
it.
So what were some of your selling points? Because when you did win that person to come here, what were some of the things?
Well, the
that they
Oscar
enjoyed?
certainly helped, right?
Yeah.
But,
Right.
but it was also the ability to do good work, right? At the time, home prices were relatively low compared to other parts of the nation. Lack of traffic, just ease of getting around. There are a lot of creature comforts here in Shreveport-Bossier that we often take for granted.
Right.
You know, and those, you know, despite the fact that the studio actually went out of business, while we were here and doing that work, folks were buying homes, you know, putting real money into the community, paying their taxes and stuff like that. Sure. Gregory probably told you about the fact that we have filmmakers who moved away or came up elsewhere and are now living in Shreveport-Bossier, partly because of Film Prize. But again, it's because of the fact that the film industry is here. It's a real thing. It is not a theoretical thing. It's just a question of making sure that we nurture it and we continue to grow it sustainably.
Well, I love your enthusiasm, and I'm glad from Trinidad here to highlight the film industry in Shreveport, and you're here to stay. Is that right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
What are some of your plans? I know you, when you took over the RFC, you didn't just say, "Well, this is my job for a couple of years till whatever." You have plans for the future. Can you outline some of the really big ideas?
Absolutely. Yeah, workforce development is huge. We want to continue to cement our place as a resource for the film community here. We want to be that connection point, making sure that we take care of our filmmakers and give them the boost that they need. Artists want to create for other people, right? So we have the ability to show their work. You know, we have a regional filmmaker spotlight series. We do festivals where we show independent films. Film Prize is a huge partner for us.
Yeah.
But we want to take that one step further, and we want to make sure by partnering with the city and with the group that are out running at the old Millennium Studios building, we want to make sure that we're partnering with education institutions such as Centenary, LSUS, and all of that, and really have a concerted effort to make sure that we can sustainably build a workforce. The other part of it is to create that repository for the history of film here, because again, that helps. It makes our community cooler, right? I mean, like there's a cool factor there, right? But again, it also allows. I often use this example. If a kid in Atlanta goes into their parents' bedroom and says, "Hey, I want to work in the film industry," that's a much different conversation than if a kid in Shreveport or Bossier does that. Because it's so pervasive in Atlanta, you are not far away from knowing someone who's connected to the film or entertainment industry there. In any number of capacities. It doesn't have to just be on set. There are people who do marketing, there are accountants, there are caterers, there are hairdressers, hairstylists, people who do makeup. The list goes on and on. So we want to have even just a fraction of that for our folks here. And quite frankly, that provides a lot of pathways for many of the underserved communities in this area. I have a personal mission to provide exposure and pathways to folks, to kids primarily in underserved communities. Because when I was growing up in Trinidad as a film nerd, and I grew up reading comics and watching.
Me too, man.
Yeah,
I'm still a comic nerd.
Watching A-Team on TV and all that good stuff. I didn't have somebody who could sit me down and go, okay, this can be a path for you, right?
Yeah.
There's so many really talented kids in Shreveport-Bossier right now who don't have that pathway, right? And part of our mission at RFC is to provide those pathways. Even if they don't end up in the entertainment industry, they can learn skills that they can apply in other fields.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, that's going to about do it. Any last plug you want to give us for the Robinson Film Center?
Well, listen, we want to welcome the community at RFC anytime. I mean, our role in this town is to be a resource. We are a nonprofit. So we put our money where our mouth is.
Yeah.
We really are a community resource.
Absolutely.
And we hope you guys just come down and see us at the movies. Just go to robinsonfilmcenter.org and you can get information on all the programs that we do. We also show first run films, but we also show classic films. As we speak, we are playing The Quiet Man with John Wayne.
Nice, yeah. Is that Maureen O'Hara in it too?
Yes, that is
Okay.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
You knew her. You went to school there too, right?
Yeah. She graduated a year ahead of me.
And but we're doing fun stuff as well. We have Starship Troopers as our
Nice.
Come
friend
on.
there.
When I first saw that, I thought it was horrible.
Me too.
Yeah,
I
thought it was horrible.
had a headache.
And then you start watching it, and it's just like, I'm going to keep watching this.
Exactly.
Right? One of those cult
exactly.
things.
Yeah, and we're doing a bunch of stuff for October, culminating with a Rocky Horror Picture Show Shadowcast on October 20th.
Nice.
Will
So
there
if
be
y'all want to
training?
dress up,
Will there be training? So bring toast, bring bread.
yeah, we're not doing toast because my general manager, my ops manager, he's like, I don't want to be cleaning up bread, but we're doing all the other stuff. So if y'all want to dress up in costume, come on down.
Well, he might.
That sounds
I'm going to pass. All right, Wendell. Thank you. Wendell
Thanks so
Riley
much.
from the Robinson
Yeah.
Film Center. It's a
Fantastic.
pleasure. Thanks for
It's a
shining
pleasure
a light
to
on not only Robinson and the RFC, but all of the film industry in
Well,
Shreveport.
thank you so much. And anytime you guys want me on to keep talking,
Okay.
They have hot tamales there too, right? It's the only place I can go to watch a movie that still sells hot
I
tamales.
like hot tamales.
It's my favorite.
All
don't
right.
have the tamales anymore.
No more tamales.
We do have fish and chips.
Racers out of here.
We
It's
have
off
fish.
to Sonic.
We have fish and
It's a
chips.
short cord. Don't go too far. All right. Thanks, Wendell.
All right, cheers.
Appreciate that.
Yeah,
Thank you for
absolutely.
joining us for this podcast of Good to Know Shreveport-Bossier, brought to you by the Committee of 100 and KTBS 3. Remember, tell your friends and colleagues about this podcast, as we'll have new content every other Wednesday. And for more information, you can check us out at goodtoknowsb.com. Have a great day. We'll try to go find Paul. We'll send out a scouting party. Let's all continue to make Shreveport-Bossier the best it can be. And all of this, of course, as always, is good to know.